But welcome to Tuesdays in the Shop. I'm Yvette.
I'm Andrea.
And we are Gotham Quilts coming to you from New York City. This week, we want to show you this original quilt design that we've been working on. If you're familiar with how we carry a ton of solids, some of our favorite solids are the Tula Pink selection from Free Spirit. So Free Spirit has a line of solids called Designer Solids. And then Tula picked, originally she had 22 colors that were like pretty saturated. And then she came out with another 22 colors, half of which are like pastels and half are like jewel tones. So when you put it all together, you get that gorgeous bundle. And this is a fat eighth bundle. So when you think about 44 different solids in fat eighths, that's enough fabric to make a pretty decent quilt.
Yeah, as you can see, it's not a skimpy bundle.
Yeah. So when this was announced, when they told us that they were making these fat eighth bundles, Andrea and I were like, let's design something. And I had a weird idea to do, well, how about I just show you what we came up with. Okay, so we're calling the quilt Tourmaline, which is the name of a gem, but that gem comes in a bunch of different colors. And, we're talking about 44 different solids, right? So that's how we came up with the name. And I am going to show you what it looks like when it's finished. As soon as I click the correct button. I lost my tab. Okay, there we go. This is live, people.
Yep.
Ta-da! I'm pretty excited.
Rainbowy.
Yeah, so my crazy idea was to combine like a stripe with a hexagon with an unusual proportion. Usually you see equilateral hexagons, I think is the right way to say it, where all sides of the hexagon all the angles are the same, right? And all the lengths are the same. So it's like an inch here, an inch here, an inch here, or whatever. In this hexagon, you may think of this shape more as a coffin. That's another word for like an elongated hexagon. These are 6 inches tall and then 4 inches wide at the widest part and 2 inches wide at the top and the bottom. So it's like a different shaped hexagon. And then we basically figured out how many you could make from the fabric that we had and then distributed. Andrea did the magic of figuring out which one should go where and like, how to layer them so that it would look sort of like a rainbow, but like not really a rainbow, but gives you that vibe. And people in the comments are saying they're liking it. So that's pretty exciting. Let's see if I could get it on there. So yeah, this makes a 61 by 65 inch throw, which is a really nice size for like sitting under on the couch. And it's so bright and happy. And we decided to bind it in green. Which green is the binding, Andrea?
Julep.
Julep. Yeah, that's such a beautiful color.
It's kind of in the middle. Like it's not too blue green, but it's not too yellow green, and kind of ties it together a little bit.
I think julep is a good name for that color because it's sort of like a mint kind of color.
It's kind of in the middle. It's well, whatever.
I mean like a literal mint leaf kind of color. Yeah. So yeah, this is our new design. It's called Tourmaline. And surprise, this is entirely pieced by machine.
I was just going to say, you should point that out because I would not make this if it was all done by hand. But I would do it by machine.
And I just realized I wasn't showing our faces because, like the beauty of being on a live video or on a Zoom call or whatever is that you get to see the person's face while they're talking. So you could see, if they're excited or they're mad or whatever it is. And I have not
the dumb stuff I'm doing while you're talking.
Yeah, holding up with the bundle or whatever, and I hadn't clicked the button, so we weren't at the bottom. And when I just said that, I was gesticulating. I was going like surprise, and then I was like, but I'm not on the screen. This is a technique that I did not invent. Somebody else invented this idea of how to make a hexagon that is machine pieced and you don't have to sew any Y seams. And the secret is that to make each hexagon, it's actually 2 pieces of fabric. There's a top half of a hexagon and the bottom half of the hexagon. So I'm going to show you a quick little video that I made. In our pattern, we have a template for what we're calling a hexagon section. Well, a half hexagon.
Half hexagon, yeah.
Yeah. So it's this funnier, even funnier shape than this weird hexagon. And you are going to cut strips from the fat eighths and then subcut those strips into those half hexagons. And so let me show you this video. Oh, and if you have any questions, if we're going too fast, please put them in the comments and we will help you out.
Yep.
Let me switch to the other.
We do check the comments and try to answer them.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the other video. Oh, I'm at the end of the video instead of the beginning. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so as you can see at the beginning, I have a strip of fabric, and this strip is 3.5 inches wide, which makes sense because we're going to have 2 of these, and our hexagons were 6 inches tall. You probably didn't remember that from when I explained at the beginning. But as you know, you lose a 1/2 inch in the selvage when you, not the selvage, the seam allowance. When you piece 2 pieces together, right? For quilting, we use a 1/4 inch seam. So that means you lose a 1/2 inch. So if I had done 2 3-inch tall sections to sew together, the finished hexagon would not be 6 inches tall. It would be 5.5 inches tall. So this is my 3.5 inch strip. Here's my ruler. And here is the little template that you're going to print out from the pattern. And that's just me moving the strip around so you can see. You're going to lay the hexagon down, aligning the top and the bottom of the template to the top and bottom of the strip. And then you use your ruler because, of course, you're not going to use a rotary cutter against a piece of paper, right? Like never do that. You will maybe cut yourself. So you put your ruler on top and then you use your rotary cutter to trim. And then to do the next cut, you're going to do the same thing, but on the other side. So the first cut is just to throw away that little bit of fabric that I just threw out. The second cut is when you're actually creating the little hexagon shape, half hexagon shape. And then you're not going to have any waste. You're going to line up the hexagon template again.
You're right flipping it over.
Sorry?
You have to flip it over.
Yeah, yes, but you're lining up the hexagon to the same cut that you just made to make the next cut. And you can see I shifted it when I put my ruler down, but you just organize it again. My words are not coming out today.
That's my thing.
I know. And Andrea pointed out to me once we were talking about this, that in order to not worry about, oops, not what I meant to click, sorry. In order to not worry about potentially cutting your template, right? Because this is a paper template. One thing you can do is you can transfer this onto template plastic. So that way it's almost impossible for you to cut it with your rotary cutter, right? Because that plastic is a little bit thicker.
Oh, it'll go, rotary cutters will cut template plastic.
Not, wait.
It's a lot harder than paper.
Why am I down over here? Okay, let's fix me. I didn't, what happened to the video screen?
I see it.
You can see it? I can't see it.
Yeah, there's me, you, and the video. But we're all equal.
I just see my backdrop, my background. You
now
see
it's the main picture is the video, and you and I are tiny in the corner.
That's crazy because to me, I see my Windows background.
Huh.
Instead of the video in the big space. Anyway, so Kathleen is asking, how many layers do you recommend to cut at one time? I recommend 1. Believe it or not, I recommend 1. If you are more confident in cutting and you regularly cut with layers, you can maybe do like 2 to 4, I would think, and still keep enough control that you know that everything's lined up. But with this kind of shape, what you don't want is each of your cuts to be slightly different sizes. Because then when you go piece it together, it's all a little bit wonky. You don't get your your seams aligned, and then you don't really get a hexagon at the end. So if
when you're sewing it together into rows, you don't get a straight row. It starts to wiggle wobble.
It can be,
and that's just going to make everything else harder.
So I would definitely recommend one at a time.
Yeah, I would do 2 max.
Yeah. So each strip, you're cutting 6 of those half hexagon sections. You do have a lot of cutting to do, but you don't need to cut it all up front. You could cut like the first 2 rows, piece the first 2 rows, and then cut the next 2 rows or something like that. I don't love cutting everything up front because then I have to keep track of all those pieces for like more than 30 seconds, which is my attention. Oh, and then Jen's saying you could even use the mini like leftover pieces to make something else. I personally would not be keeping that tiny little scrap, but you know, if you're the kind of person who wants to keep it all and use it all, that's good for the environment, and I commend you. And yeah, you definitely could still make something.
The good thing about this pattern is, though, there really aren't that many scraps because you're really only getting 1 on each end of your strip. So that's what, 4 tiny little triangles for every fat eighth?
On the end, you do end up with a little bit more of a scrap. This is how much you end up with at the end, but still, yeah. And then there, you don't use the entire fat eighth. In general, when we're writing patterns for a pre-cut, we cannot write them to use every inch of the pre-cut because no pre-cuts are so accurately cut. So a fat eighth, for those who don't know, is 9 inches wide, about 22 inches long. The 9 is going to be 9 or like just shy of 9 or just over 9, but the 22 might not really be 22. It might be 21. It might be 21 and a half, right? So when we write patterns, and hopefully every pattern designer is doing this, you plan for using less fabric than what is actually in the pre-cut, just in case somebody gets, maybe you get one that's like a little bit crooked, or maybe you get one that's a little short. You don't want to plan to use your entire fat quarter for whatever you're doing, a fat eighth. So yeah,
there's asking for trouble.
Yeah, and like needless trouble, right? So I mean, we're getting a comment that she's cut 4 at a time, but she was using a brand new rotary blade. So that's a good tip. You could layer it and then, you know, try to make sure they're staying together. All right, so your options are you can print the template out on paper, cut it out, and use it the way I just showed it, or you could use that template to then cut template plastic to make a more durable template. And then the third option that Andrea pointed out in my video, let me go back to that section of the video. When I cut the second cut, which was against, what was I going to say about the second cut? Oh, right. It's not even the second cut. I meant the actual second cut. Okay, so the first cut I did with the ruler sitting on top of my template, right? The second cut, the ruler is to the left of the template, because if I was a lefty, I could have put it on top of the template because I would be cutting on the left, but I'm a righty, so it's to the right of my template, and then I cut on the right side of the ruler. At this stage, once you're lined up, Andrea pointed out very cleverly that you can just take out the hexagon template at this point. Don't move the ruler, remove the paper, and then cut. That way you're not accidentally maybe nicking a piece of the template, and you don't have to be as careful to not cut the paper. So that's another little tip that would be, I think, useful for people.
It's really common when you're doing stuff like this where your template gets a tiny bit smaller every time, and then so the ones you cut first are not the same size as the ones you cut last, and you don't, it's so small that you don't notice it, but it can make a difference. So yeah, just once you get your ruler lined up, just take the paper away and then make your cut.
Yeah. And we just got a really good question. So this question is saying, is this a normal angle that my ruler would have on it? Because if it was a normal angle, then you could just measure and then cut using the guidelines on your ruler, which most quilting rulers do have angles marked on them. However, the answer is no. It is not a standard angle. And the reason it's not a standard angle is because I prioritize the finished size of the block being even numbers over the angle of the cut being a normal like 15 or 30 or 45 inch per degree angle. So if I could not have done both of getting like a nice amount at each intersection, right? So the top is 2 inches, the width is 4 inches, the bottom is 2 inches, the vertical is 6 inches. I wanted those even correct numbers for aesthetic reasons and also for math reason, like to figure out how much fabric I would need, how big's the quilt going to come out. So that means that something has to be a not standard number, and that's the angle. The angle is, I think it's just shy of 15 degrees. So no, you can't use your ruler, which is why we have a template in the pattern.
Yes, template is included in the pattern.
I can.
There probably is a way to make the measurements and the angles work, but that would require a person that is a lot better at geometry than we are.
Yeah, and maybe somebody, like I just wanted that shape, you know, so that is what it is. And yes, the answer is the template is in the pattern. So you just print that page, you cut out the template, and you're good to go.
And if you purchase the kit, the pattern will be, a printed pattern will be included in the kit.
Right. And then let's quickly show, I'm going to stop sharing that and just show us. So here I did this with a print because I just happen to have this in hand. So here's all the sections that I cut from one strip, right? And then I sewed one section together. I dropped one. So I'm showing you one of the hexagons pieced. This is not how you're going to piece the quilt. You don't piece a full hexagon and then attach another hexagon and another hexagon. How you piece the quilt is you follow the picture to know which color goes where, and you attach this piece to, I'm going to grab a pink one to make it a little bit more logical. So this gets attached to this, and then another one gets attached to this, and you end up making a row of this funny shape. And then you make another row of the funny shape. And then you're going to pin your seams so that they match, right? Because on the top here, the one here would be like this. Pin all across, and then you just go straight across and stitch them all out. So at no point are you sewing a curve, are you sewing a Y seam, the hardest thing is you're sewing bias cut edges. So if you know that you're the kind of person who tends to stretch your edges, keep an eye out, because these are all bias on this side and they're straight cuts on this side.
And feel free to starch. Starch helps with the bias stretching.
For bias edges, that's a very good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, it's pieced the same way you would piece squares or rectangles, really. You just sew them into rows and then sew your rows together. So not anything complicated, not hard. It looks more complicated and harder than it actually is. And
I love when it looks like you've done magic, right? And it turns out that you really just did something pretty straightforward.
Sewed rows.
The result is impressive, right? Like that's my favorite kind of project, excuse me. Oh, and Kim is saying she likes the big dot. So, I mean, the pattern, we wrote it for solids, but theoretically you could use prints. Might be a little
I think those big dots would actually be really fun to fussy cut and then throw in sporadically in with all the prints. But I'm going further.
So maybe we could design a version of this kit with Roar, because this is a print from Roar.
That's true. And so those colors will coordinate with her solids.
And that's also true.
Yes. And we still have a lot of both of those dots.
We might have a second version of this coming out in a minute. But for now, we have this. Let me put the QR code up. This is a limited edition kit. These bundles that Free Spirit made with the Fat Eights, they're not like always available. So we have.
This is the first time they've ever offered them all in one, in one package.
Yeah, and they're not reorderable, right?
No, right. Nope. What we have is all that we're going to get.
So I think we have like 14 or something like that.
I don't remember off the top.
That's the maximum number of kits we can make. And then after that, this kit will be retired. So
we do have yardage of all of these colors.
Right. Do you want to cut a Fat Eighth of 44?
No, I didn't say that. But you can order more of any of these colors if you so choose. And we also offer bundles, fat quarter up to full yards of her original color. The original 22 colors is just Tula Pink solid bundle. And then the unicorn poop, which is the pastels, that we offer that as a bundle, and Dragon's Breath are the jewel tones. So we do offer all of them in bundles, but not all together as one bundle. and not as fat eighths either. But you could definitely get fat quarters of each of the bundles and then make it even bigger if you wanted to make a bigger version.
So Kim is asking, does that circle I showed fit? So I just checked, and it does fit, but you would need more fabric because anytime you're fussy cutting,
Right.
you're going to have waste, right? So this one that I cut, you can see that this circle does fit vertically, but doesn't fit horizontally. So you would first fussy cut this way when you cut the strip, and then the second fussy cut would be when you do the template part. So
that print is called Dinosaur Egg, and it is available in 4 different colors. It's part of the Roar collection. So if somebody did want to just get a yard and sprinkle it in, you could give that a shot.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I kind of wish we'd had this idea before we got on the video, but you know, this is live, like I keep saying.
Yep, exactly.
So that's it. This is just the new kit that we are launching today. It really is so pretty, and it'll be fun to make. I think the least fun part is cutting out those hexagon.
That's always the least fun part.
To be fair, well, maybe the least fun part is basting. I've never met a quilter who's like, I loved the basting step.
Yeah, no, I don't know anyone that does. I don't know that I like anyone that likes cutting either.
I feel like I've met somebody who likes cutting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you like cutting?
I mean, I don't hate it, but it's certainly not my favorite.
No, your favorite is picking out fabric.
Well, yeah. And then second would be sewing the fabric. But yeah, cutting, it's necessary. You know, I'll do it, whatever.
Yeah, I swear I met somebody whose favorite was piecing. My favorite is quilting. And I've seen people whose favorite is binding.
Yeah, definitely. Which, okay.
But I've never met anybody whose favorite is basting, ever.
No, I definitely can't. I'm having like a vague memory of someone that did like that, but I couldn't.
Used to come into the store.
I could be making it up.
Yeah.
Who knows who that might have been.
So yeah, this video probably a little bit shorter than the usual. But this kit is launching today. I will send an email tomorrow also.
Dana likes cutting.
Oh, Dana likes cutting. Yay. And then she's like, it's relaxing when my hand isn't acting up. Yeah, which is why I don't like cutting, because my hands don't like it.
Pesky hands.
Yeah. It's funny because the quilting, if I quilt on a sit down, I kind of have that same problem because you basically just hold your hands like this when you're quilting on a sit down. But on my long arm, I can change the position of the handles. So I'll be quilting like this, and then my hands start hurting. So I then switch to this. Or at one point I had a deadline, and my right hand was killing me. And what I did is I wrapped the handle with leftover batting to make the grip bigger. Because holding that same diameter was bothering my hand. So I made it bigger, and then I could keep going, even though what I should have done is taken a break. But I had a deadline, you know. Oh, yay, we got I love the pattern. Thank you very much.
Good.
So yeah, that's basically it that we had to tell you today. Next week's live will be more interesting, I think.
We don't know what it is yet, but
no, we do. Assuming
we do.
We make the deadline of the thing we're supposed to launch next.
Oh, right, week. The one that was supposed to be today, but
the one that was supposed to be today, and
we'll do that next week. Okay, got it. We'll definitely have it ready by next week.
Yes. So it'll be longer next week. The live for sure. So I'll just put the QR code back up in case anybody needs it again. Housekeeping wise, we were going to tell them.
Stash Society just went out this morning, so those are on the way. We have a couple spots left in our half square triangle retreat that we had to postpone until August. So there was a couple of people that weren't able to make the new date, so we were able to open up a couple spots. There's still a couple left. August and the 12th. 2 spots left?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were thinking about it, if you couldn't make the last dates or whatever, you've got a second chance. So don't wait on that though, because I doubt they'll be available for very long.
And a reminder that is the weekend of August 9th through the 11th. in
Yeah.
case you want to check your calendar real
Oh,
quick.
that's right. Yeah, 9th through 11th. I thought it was, yeah. I thought it was 10 through 12 or whatever. Yep.
I
think that was it.
There was
Cat and pajamas kits. Those went out this morning, or no, those are going out tomorrow morning.
they got packed up, right?
Yeah, those are packed up and ready to be picked up. So the cats in pajamas quilts, the kit is available as well as the pattern individually. And that one is so cute. I love and the bundles too. Now that the bundles are here, I can actually show you. I totally forgot.
Right.
Because they're so pretty. So these are Elizabeth Hartman's kitchen window wovens. And
do we have those available just to buy without the kit?
I can't remember, but they will be momentarily if they're not already. But yeah, I don't have yardage. All I have are these fat quarter bundles, and we have, I think, 9 left. They're beautiful. So actually we have 8 left because I'm going to take one.
She's been telling me about this for like, I don't know, how many months have you seen this? It was like 6 months ago.
It probably was 6 months ago. Yeah. But yeah, it's all the brights that they're just so pretty together. And they're wovens, which I love. So
right. And it's like
one
a
of
more
these
modern version of a gingham.
Yes, exactly. And they're in different sizes. There's at least 3 or 4 different woven ginghams. So it's not all just that one. There's a little bit more interesting with more colors. So yeah, there's at least 3 or 4. But yeah, they're so pretty and they're really soft too. That's the other thing. They go so well with Essex, any kind of woven, any fabric really. But yeah, one of these is going home with me. So
what's the weight like? Is it comparable to quilting cotton?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say for sure. It is. It might be a tiny bit thinner, but not a lot.
Okay.
And it seems to be
depending on the woven, sometimes like those cave shot cottons, they're so
it's
thin.
not that thin. And it's not like the cave shot cottons are even a little bit transparent almost. This is not. I guess I could just open it up since I'm going to take one with me. But yeah, it's a really nice nice weight, pretty colors. Will you announce if they're available without the kit?
I
think
literally putting it on.
Okay, yes, that was I didn't think ahead to that I was going to show them. It was on my list to make sure they were available, but dropped the ball on that one. So Yvette is faster than I am, so she's taking care of that. Yes, these are yarn dyed. They're not printed. So it's a true woven plaid. So yeah, so they're working on it. All right, Yvette just put up a link, so those are available now. They do look like real pajamas. They really do. And I mean, cats in pajamas, how cute is that?
It really is cute.
But this would be good for some of her other patterns too, like the dogs and sweaters. These would make some pretty cute sweaters. Can't think of anything else off the top of my head, but you could just put these, cut squares out and sew them together, and that would look good too.
Yeah. And that would have a little bit of that kind of picnic blanket vibe if you just did a charm quilt with those.
Yes.
Have you ever seen the thing where people will make a quilt top and then the back will be a laminate so that you can take it like out
and have a waterproof layer?
That could be a good use of this too. So just throwing that out there for anyone who thinks
Jen says they'll be good for hand quilting. They'll be good for Kawandi.
Oh yeah.
Quilting.
Definitely.
Pretty much anything. The only problem is they're not big enough. They're fat quarters, so they're not big enough to make actual pajamas out of. But maybe little doll pajamas or something.
You could make peace
for your actual cat. You could make pajamas.
I don't think your cat would appreciate that.
No. I bet I could get them on Polly.
Make like patchwork pajama pants.
That would be. It makes me think of like a hippie.
Yeah, for sure.
the hippies playing hacky sack, you know, in their pajama pants
Yes.
outside the dorm.
Man, I haven't thought about a hacky sack in 20 years. All right. Now we're really not talking about anything useful.
Yeah, we got a little off topic there.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us. We will be back next week at the same time, same place, 6:30 New York City time, Eastern time on Tuesday nights. It's Tuesdays in the Shop. Thank you for coming. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.